going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are going to be talking about Blue ISO and the impressions from that, talk about the patch notes today, and all that stuff. But as I was getting things set up to record, someone sent this to me, apparently over on MSF.gg, because they have the API stuff going on there. Apparently, they pulled the Captain America Sam Wilson in the game files somehow. And it looks like that we are going to be getting some kind of Secret Avenger faction. If I click on this, it's not going to show me anything. So this is all kind of hidden in there. Everything you see here, take with a major grain of salt, because we just don't know if this stuff is going to be true. But I thought it was kind of interesting to run over what we pulled from the API real quick, just to kind of see what they could be going with for the Secret Avenger team. He's going to be a protector character, which makes sense. I mean, he's the new Captain America, but global in skill. And he does have the Avenger tag, which is to be expected. And the Secret Avenger, we'll figure out later on what this Secret Avenger tag is going to be. But he's got a special, or he's got his basic called Soaring Shield Bash. Attack the primary target for 350% damage and clear one positive effect. And bonus attack for 300% damage and gain +1 deflect. His special possibly is going to be Stars and Stripes. Gains taunt for 2 turns, +3 defect and +3 counter. Applies defense up to all allies, applies speed up to all Avenger and skill allies, and grant 1 ability energy to random non-summon allies. This is very similar to what we have with our regular Captain America, that ability energy to random allies. Really looks like it's kind of copying some of that stuff there, which is great. Getting that deflect and counter on himself and applying defense up to all allies and speed up. All that stuff looks great. But you see he's got a lot of this synergy with skill characters here. And you'll see as you go down to his passive, we can see that a little bit more too. His ultimate is called Freedom Flight, attacks all enemies for 450% damage, and fills the speed bar for self and all skill allies by 5% for each enemy, plus fills speed bar for all other allies by 5% for each enemy. So this one, it seems really weird. I mean, why even have that distinguishing between skill allies? Because it looks like each ally, no matter if they're skill or not, are going to get the same bonus speed bar filled up here. So this is one of those things where it kind of takes a big grain of salt, because this stat does not seem right. So we'll see what happens here. But then this is where things look very interesting on his passive. Captain's Legacy. On spawn, gain deflect and +1 deflect to all skill allies. At the end of any turn, if this character has taunt and no deflect, clear taunt and gain 2 regen. Plus 25% block chance, plus 20% block amount, and while this character has deflect, gain 300% bonus resistance, and then 40% max health for stuff and all Secret Avenger allies, and then in raids, non-Secret Avenger skill allies gain 20% bonus max health. That seems like you're pretty much going to be throwing him into the raids. It looks like there's going to be some kind of raid synergy here with him and skill characters. I mean, the skill nodes right now, they're kind of solved. I mean, you could 2-shot pretty easily. You can 1-shot if you're lucky. But maybe with this bonus speed bar here, this bonus speed bar does kind of call back to his Red Wing ability with Falcon. So it's one of those things where maybe he's going to help make the skill boss nodes easier. But with Kestrel in there now and Zemo and everything else, it's relatively easy now. So I'm going to be curious to see how much of this is actually real. Like I said, take this all with a big grain of salt, but maybe we're going to be seeing this as our next team in the game with Secret Avengers. And we'll see if maybe there is something there with this team and what we're going to get. But I just want to really share that with you guys real quick, because this was something that got leaked, apparently, or got thrown into the API. Not really sure what's going on there. But yeah, we'll see if this all adds up or not. So let's talk about the Blue ISO now, and the good and the bad with this. Let's start off with the really asinine stuff that I don't get. If you want to take your character up to Blue ISO, if you want to just have the privilege of putting Blue ISO on them, you have to go in here, you have to pay 10,000 tier 1 ions just to be able to unlock the ability to put the Blue ISOs on that character. I can't do it. I already did it earlier. But yeah, I'd have to spend 10k ions on this just to be able to put Blue ISO on that character, which seems a little nonsensical. There's no stat upgrades, nothing there. My characters don't get more powerful just by unlocking the blue ISO, but I still have to drop 10k tier 1 ions for a resource that's already very hard for us to get. I have to spend that kind of money just to be able to put blue ISO on. That makes zero sense. And I said that to Scopely, that's a pretty asinine move. It makes no sense. It's really stupid. But also we need to talk a little bit about these orbs and the drop rates of the orbs for blue ISO. I spent $50 on the blue ISO offer just to see what I could get out of it. And out of that, I got 130k tier 2 ISO ions. And you can see I didn't exactly get much here in the way of blue ISO. And that was 17 ISO orbs. I've got good stuff for Blaster, but if you go over to Dr. Doom, take a look at him, I can only put a couple of ISO on him. I just didn't get any of those ISOs out of the offer. So it's one of those things that's not exactly ideal. Now, if you go and look at the drop rates, this is where things get a little interesting. The basic T1 and basic T2 ISO orbs have the same drop rate. You can get one of these out of here. Though actually, I think in the basic you can actually get more than one. It says guarantees one, but I feel like you could get a little bit more of them. So we'll see. But if you go over here and look at the basic T2, there's these flat rates here. So it's making me think that you're only going to get one of these crystals out of here. And if you go, it's the same thing in the center, left, and right pillars. Each time you pull a basic T2 ion orb or a basic T2 ISO 8 orb, you're only going to get 3 crystals out of it. You could get more out of a basic T1 ISO 8 orb. So those drop rates got nerfed. If you take a look at the T2 level 1 ISO orb, 450 power cores for this, and you can max out on 24.3k in the left, center, and right pillars. Go look at the T1 ion orb, 375 power cores, so it's cheaper, but you can get more orb, you can get more ions out of it. You can get 4 times the amount of ISO, oh my gosh, ions, ISOs. There's so many confusing words here, but yeah, just on the center pillar, you automatically get a base better drop rate in that center pillar than you do on the center pillar for the T2 ions. So it's one of those things where I'm spending more money and I'm getting less T2 ions back. It feels kind of unrewarding. Now, one thing that I like that they did with the T2 ion or T2 ISO 8 orbs is that you can now target farm them a little bit here. So you get these credits, so you see this little icon for credits here. You will get these from completing the Doom raid. Now, of course, the Doom raid sucks and we can't get into it right now because it's gated behind ISO 8. But eventually, if you do get to the Doom raid, even on level 1 of the basic Doom raid, you get 3 or 4. You get enough currency to buy 3 or 4 of those orbs. Yeah, I mean tier 1. Okay, so you get enough currency to buy 2. You do 100%, you get enough to buy 4. So you'll be able to at least start getting some right away, but the drop rates on those are just as terrible as the basic T2 ISO 8 orb. It's actually maybe a little bit better. You get 2 here in the center, but you're only gonna get 1 on the sides. So it's one of those things where it's also, look at this. So another thing too, this controller ISO 8 orb, you can buy it. The only place you're guaranteed to get that controller ISO 8 is in the center. On the left side, you can get any class there. And on the right side, you're getting 15,000 T2 ions, which is nice to have ions, but the cost of those, we'll look at the cost here as well. It's a little bit more expensive to upgrade T2 ions or T2 ISO than it is to upgrade T1 ISO. And we'll see how expensive that gets up at level 5. I can't figure that out right now. But if this is a targeted farming orb, I would certainly love to get more out of that if I'm buying those orbs. Because, I mean, if I'm buying a controller orb and I just get like 2 controller crystals out of it, and I get something like Protector, which I have a ton of, not going to feel good either. So, this is all stuff I've already sent off to Scopely and Cerebro and just told them, like, these blue ISO 8 orbs, they're not good, man. They're worse drop rates, more expensive, targeted farming doesn't look right, doesn't work right. We'll see what happens there, but I'm just not impressed overall with their system for it. plus having to spend 10,000 ions just to be able to put blue ISO 8 or crystals into your characters. I mean, come on. What is that nonsense? Now, let's talk about the cost. If you're going to start putting level 2 and higher crystals, 2,500 T2 ions to upgrade to a tier 2 ISO 8 crystal for this character right here. And they've moved it so the cost is down here at the bottom now instead of over here on the right. So how expensive is it to do a tier 1 level 2 crystal? Well, it is a whopping total of 1,000. So it's much cheaper to put a tier 1 crystal on versus a tier 2 crystal. And when you're going to tier 5 here, it's 50,000 at least. I mean, so at that point, if it's costing 50,000 ions to fuse a level 5 tier 1 crystal, how much is it going to cost to fuse a tier 2 level 5 crystal? It's such a freaking mouthful saying that all. There's going to have to be a better way to pronounce all of this. But yeah, I mean, was it going to be 100k ions to put a level 5 blue ISO crystal in? If that's the case, the scarcity that we had with tier 1 is going to be absolutely nothing compared to what we get with tier 2 ISO 8. And I'm really not looking forward to that. I'm very worried about how easily available tier 2 crystals and tier 2 ions will be. We'll see how that all goes. Now, one other thing I want to add real quick. Cerebro did mention in public chat on the Envoy server on Friday in the blog post, we will be getting information on tier 1 ISO 8 and ions becoming more widely available. We already had a nice long discussion about this. I basically said, you guys screwed up big time by not dropping that info when you guys announced the Doom Raid stuff, because it would have saved a lot of anger and grief and people quitting. We'll see what is. I'm gonna hold out a little bit of hope that maybe they get it right and maybe it's gonna be widely available enough for us that we're not gonna be gated too long from the Doom Raid, but we'll see. I mean, honestly, today has been a bit of a big disappointment with the patch and everything, and they went forward with the Doom Raid stuff. I'm not as mad as Valley Fly has. Valley Fly has been furious all day, but I've been like going back and forth between furious and apathetic all day. But yeah, it's we'll see. But I'm just worried about how this tier 2 blue ISO is going to work out, and if it's going to be even harder to farm it than the tier 1 ISO 8. We'll see how it all goes. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the stuff with Sam Wilson, the Secret Avengers? What do you guys think about this blue ISO stuff? Let me know down below. But as always, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.